Spirit of Fear in the 2023 Alex Davidson movie is based on a strange concept where the man must search for evidence to understand the reason for his detention inside a house. Although parts of it may remind us of the 1997 science fiction horror Cube, The Spirit of Fear is greatly limited compared to the first. It appears to be filmed as an expected budget. Movie stars Christopher Lee Beige as the only star and character we see for the majority of the movie. Although it is terrified, the film lacks any such elements. Here is the collapse of the movie in order to decide whether or not you should watch it. A man gets out of his sleep, and perhaps outside a nightmare, which is more terrifying to find his left hand soaked in the blood. The man, Chris, rushes to the bathroom and begins to wash his hand, just to realize that the blood has no. Moreover, there is a sticky note on the mirror that warns of staying for a long time in the bathroom. Chris goes on the bottom floor and continues to find more warnings like this across the strange, empty house, which gives an evil aura. Some warnings alert him not to go down on the basement or adventure abroad. Another note is found in the child's room, part of which is missing. Chris faces difficulty understanding any of the things he is witnessing at home, including multiple notes, a child's tape, closed safe, and a demonic mask stored in the refrigerator, among other homosexuals. Chris tries to challenge warnings and sit in the bathroom for a short period, only for a ghost entity to start the height of the bathtub against the bathroom curtain. He escapes from the bathroom and lands in the child's room, only to find a doll that speaks when pressed. In an attempt to understand the strange situation, he ventures abroad as well, although he returns soon. However, the phrase, "I am here," notes, written from the table tools on a table when it comes back. There is a bloody manual on a frame, and it turns to find a mirror. The phone rings, and when it picks it up, there is a brutal roar on the other side, forcing Chris to hang. He also finds a closed wardrobe in the child's room, and needs to open a key. There are many events full of mind that maintains their occurrence that makes a man wonder whether he loses his mind. In an attempt to equip his fears, Chris is heading to the basement to find out what is there, just to find a closed box. He cannot open the box, but he feels uncomfortable in the basement, and he has to escape. He rises to the upper floor and finds a lot of games, but the game that attracts his attention is the conversation doll that says, "My father," with the voice of a little girl, and shocks Chris. There is an old display in the living room that starts to play a video of the family barbecue, where Chris can be seen fighting with his wife and becoming violent. It immediately goes when he feels that there is an entity that chases it. On the bottom floor, he finds a mirror, and he was shocked to find his reflection looking back, but it is not after all. He tries to reflect Chris before breaking the mirror to detect two ethnic verses on the back of the wall. When passing by the Bible, it was found that part of the page had torn, and it needs to be found this part to complete the last part of the puzzle. He returns to the bottom floor, but this time he writes "Do it for them" on his arm, where they are his wife and daughter. On the bottom floor, he finds a torn piece of the Bible on the edge of the bathtub, where his wife cries while an entity stands in the corner, covered in a white sheet. The entity is installed to Chris at the moment he holds the page, but he somehow managed to escape from the basement. The delivery of this page to the Bible reveals the verse in Timothy about the spirit of fear. Using the two verses that you saw on the wall as symbols, it cancels the treasury insurance to find a key to the closed cabinet. The key opens a music box, where a piece from the paper folded. This paper tells Chris that he is his home, and needs to get rid of the unusual entity. Chris walks to the basement to find the creature lying on a table with a cloth that covers it. While Chris demands the entity to leave his house, there is a violent vibration in the creature, but he holds it with the arm when he approaches him. However, moments ago, about to show her face, he remembers the reason for doing all this and coaxes in the creature to leave them alone. Chris, who was finally able to stand in the face of Satan, makes Satan fly his grip on him, and he is able to wake up to find two priests near him with a cross on hand. Since Chris was able to realize that the heart is not fear, but from power, courage, and near love, his heart was full of good courage that allowed him to escape possession. Apparently, the entire film was in Chris's mind because it was owned by some of the supernatural entity, and it was by realizing that the Bible did not encourage the soul to be afraid that he was able to escape from his possession. Chris finds his wife with bruises, explaining that he hit her while he owned, but she forgives him when she realized that he was not her husband, but the person he owns is an entity. Abroad, his daughter, who was not at first confirmed but eventually met her father and jumps in his arms. While Chris holds it inside, we see the wrist that Chris found inside the house early on her wrist. To be honest, the Spirit of Fear looks like a horror survival game. There is only one personality with the minimum of the dialogue, and he needs to find evidence by exploring each part of the house and revealing a tremendous secret before the time ran out or the creature gets to it. The set of clues and the escape cup before holding the monster quickly, which leads to the removal of any anticipation or excitement that the plot could not bring. For the longest time, there was no element of fear or terror in the Spirit of Fear other than the exciting breathing of the aforementioned creature. By the time Chris discovers what to do, the film has almost reached its end, and until then, we do not see any real monster, but just a charred hand holding Chris' arm, which may explain the reason for the presence of blood on his hand in the beginning. However, the random trend method, the intense lack of context, and the absence of interpretation on how Chris possesses and why his wife is called evil spirits, and the devil was after he made the story very complicated. The Spirit of Fear could have been enjoyable as if it was a video game for one time, but as a film, it loses the path quickly and goes in every way.